We don't want to see you anymore, my mom snapped during a Zoom call. Then you won't see my money again, I said, cutting off all their accounts for the mortgage, tuition, and groceries. I felt relieved for the first time in years. Let me explain. I'm 33 now, and for almost 10 years, I've been silently supporting my whole family. When my dad lost his job during the 2008 financial crisis, he fell behind on bills and mortgage payments. Someone had to step up, and that someone was me, at 22 years old. While my friends were out having fun, I was sending money home. At first, it was just for food, then it grew to covering the house payments, Philip's university fees, Shannon's cheer costs, and what my mom called her monthly stipend, though there was nothing regular about it. She'd message me saying, "Can you help this week?" And I always did. But no one ever asked if I was okay, no one said thank you. Instead, I got criticism. My mom didn't like that I stopped going to church, my dad didn't respect my marketing job, Philip joked about the size of my apartment, Shannon complained I didn't visit enough, ignoring that I was paying the mortgage on the house they wanted me to come to. Then, last Friday, everything changed. I was on a Zoom call, talking about Shannon's tuition and mentioning that my rent had gone up. I said I might need to reduce how much I could help. That's when my mom leaned into the screen and said, "We don't want to see you anymore," then hung up. I sat there, shocked, staring at the screen. I tried to message her, but I was blocked. No messages from Dad, Philip, or Shannon, they had cut me off. I could have been angry or upset, but instead, I felt calm. For the first time in years, I felt clear-headed. I sent one final message, "You won't get a cent from me anymore." Then I started disconnecting all my financial ties with them. It was surprising how quickly everything unraveled. It felt like erasing old files you don't need anymore. I began with the house payments. My name wasn't on the title, but I'd been making payments for years, a couple of clicks, and it was done. Next, I closed the account I'd set up for my mom to help her feel independent, though it had become a way for her to access my money all the time. I emptied it and closed it, typing "breach of trust" as the reason. Then I logged into Philip's college account and removed my payment method, adding a note that I wouldn't be covering his tuition anymore. It felt freeing. I canceled utility bills, the grocery delivery, and even contacted the landlord, telling him I wouldn't be paying rent anymore. It was done. For the first time in years, I wasn't worried about money, I could just breathe. I didn't expect them to contact me right away, but that night, my phone started buzzing. First, a text from Philip, "Payment failed." Then another, "Mom is freaking out, call her." I ignored them. Then came a text from Aunt Florence, "Your mom thinks you're being unreasonable, can we talk?" I didn't respond. The next morning, the calls kept coming, one after the other. I listened to Shannon's voicemail. Her voice was shaky. She told me there was an issue with her tuition, and she asked me to talk to Mom. It hit me hard, but I still didn't respond. I was tired of always being the one to fix everything. Then, Mom called. She left a message, her tone calm but still demanding. She said, "You've made your point, but this isn't how families work. We've had our flaws, but we've always supported each other." But there was no apology, no recognition of the hurtful things she'd said. They didn't lose a child, they lost their financial support. As time went on, their messages changed. First, they were desperate, then blaming me. Philip sent a message saying I was only focused on money, acting like I hadn't covered his entire university fees. Shannon sent a dramatic message, saying, "I wish it hadn't come to this," like I had just disappeared without reason. After that, Mom sent a voice message. I listened to the voicemail once. That was enough. "You think we took advantage of you? That's not true. We relied on you because we thought you wanted to help. You never said no. You were always there. You were the strong one." And in a way, she was right. I had always been there, but after a while, being strong wears you down. When people only show up when the money stops, it's not family, it's a business deal. So, I cut ties completely. I blocked every number, made all my accounts private, and left the family group chat. No big speeches, no drama. I just erased myself from their financial lives. It's amazing how quickly someone becomes invisible when they're not paying for everything. By the end of the week, the calls stopped. The text slowed down to almost nothing. The emptiness they left behind didn't feel like loss, it felt like freedom, space to breathe, a chance to think, a future without guilt. That's when it hit me. I wasn't just done being their bank, I was done being their emotional crutch. The next morning, after blocking the last number, I slept in, not out of laziness, but because I didn't have any obligations. No phone buzzing, no worrying about who needed what, just sunlight coming through my window and the sound of my own breath. I made a real cup of coffee, not the cheap instant stuff I used to buy while saving for their bills. As I sat at my table, I realized something. This money, it's actually mine now. I opened my budgeting app, the one I used to dread. I looked at my finances, and for the first time, I started thinking about my own dreams. One day, I'll take a trip. One day, I'll start a business. Eventually, I'll spend on myself. And somehow, that one day became now. Step 1, I bought a plane ticket. Destination, Cancun. No stops, window seat. I didn't tell anyone. I didn't need their approval. No one could be disappointed anymore. Next, I booked a session with a business mentor. I had an idea for a design studio helping independent creators with branding. I'd spent so many years helping others with their dreams. It was finally time to work on mine. Before noon, I'd made more progress on my own path than I had in the past 5 years. No calls, no stress, just freedom. It felt just like that first sip of good coffee. But cutting them off didn't erase the memories. They still crept back, quietly, like forgotten tunes. Sometimes, I'd be walking and remember how Mom would message me at 9 a.m. every Sunday, "Did the funds arrive?" No small talk, just a cold request for money. Or I'd be in the grocery store, reaching for a nice piece of cheese, and freeze, because I had learned to feel guilty every time I bought something nice. "Must be nice," Dad would say when he saw a jacket I bought on sale. "Looks like the rest of us just suffer." It wasn't about generosity, it was control. A quiet, sneaky control that made me feel like it was love. At first, the silence felt louder than I expected. I had to ask myself, who am I if no one needs me? And to be honest, I wasn't sure yet, but I was starting to figure it out. I went to an art exhibit by myself. I bought a new notebook and started sketching again. Small, personal moments that I had pushed aside for years. Sometimes, I'd still check my phone, expecting one last message, but there was nothing. Maybe they gave up, or maybe they realized I was serious. I was done. There's a strange sadness that comes not from missing people, but from realizing how much of yourself you've buried to please others. Here's the truth, I had been living like a shadow for almost 10 years. I moved not to explore, but because it was easier to send money from a distance. I worked late shifts not to grow, but to pay for Philip's school stuff. I stayed single because I felt like a fraud, trying to build a life when I had nothing of my own. I was too busy supporting everyone else's dreams. Once I cut ties, I started rebuilding, financially and emotionally. I found an old notebook with a dream written inside. I want to create a space where people can build freely, bright, comfortable, a little chaotic, and real. I read it over and over. That dream hadn't died, it had just been buried under excuses. Maybe later, after Philip finishes school, when Mom's car breaks down. No more waiting, no more pouring energy into things that never appreciated me. I contacted a local agent about studios. I signed up for a startup course. I reached out to old friends, not family, but the ones I had distanced myself from because they didn't understand what I'd been carrying. And I told them the truth, I'm finally building something that's mine. The responses came in, "Took you long enough, I thought you disappeared." I hadn't vanished, I had just been buried. But now, I was coming up for air. Sure, there were hard moments, nights when I lay awake wondering if I made the wrong choice, times when I missed the idea of family. But those feelings didn't control me anymore. What mattered was the quiet, the freedom, and the space to build something of my own. I no longer served as their backup plan, I was finally my own plan. About 2 weeks went by with no contact. Then, they reached out again, not directly this time, but with a subtle, emotional message wrapped in old memories. I got a message on Instagram from a cousin I hadn't heard from in a long time. "Hi, just checking in. Your mom mentioned you've been quiet lately. She's worried. Is everything okay?" I stared at that message for a while. The words felt careful. She said I'd been quiet. Not that I'd cut ties or walked away. It felt like they were rewriting the story, making it seem like I just stopped talking for no reason, instead of acknowledging all the years I spent helping them. I didn't reply. 2 days later, I got an email from Dad, which was rare. It was short. "Whatever issues you have with your mom, we can fix them. You've made your point, don't let pride tear the family apart." I read it several times. I didn't feel angry or sad, just that familiar tiredness that always came when dealing with them. This was how things always went in my family. They wanted to pretend nothing was wrong, act like I had overreacted, when really, I had just stopped being their backup after years of being used. Then I got a voice message from Shannon. No fake crying, no guilt trip, just her tired voice. "I know you think we took advantage of you. Maybe we did. I'm not upset, just tired. I didn't ask for this, none of us did." But she was wrong. Maybe they never said it directly, but they expected me to do everything. They thought I would always help with money. They believed I would stay quiet and never speak up. When I finally stopped helping, they were confused. My silence had made things easier for them. My willingness to give had kept everything running. So when I left, They didn't miss me, they missed the person who solved their problems. I think, deep down, they realized that, not because I hated them, but because I finally saw the truth, and I couldn't lie to myself anymore. That week, I paid for a new workspace. It wasn't perfect, there were pipes on the ceiling, uneven floors, and noisy windows, but the sunlight in the back room every afternoon felt warm and peaceful. I signed the papers with a calm I hadn't felt in years. It was mine, not borrowed, not shared, not something I had to give up to help others. I painted the walls myself, white with one big green wall that made the space feel alive. I set up a big table with different chairs. A friend brought creative books, and another helped me put up shelves. I didn't tell anyone about it. I didn't post it online. No speeches, no announcements. I just opened the door, sat down, and took a deep breath. Some days, I still hear their voices in my head. Why don't you come back more often? Shannon needs help with her books. You know Mom struggles with money. That's not a serious job, but at least you're getting paid. Now, those words feel distant. They don't control me anymore. I'm not their bank. I'm not the person they call when they need money for the fridge or school fees. I'm just me, and for the first time, that's enough. Spring came early that year, the weather warmed up, and flowers bloomed ahead of schedule. It made everything seem softer. I was walking back from my studio, yes, my studio, when I saw a number I didn't recognize on my phone. I hadn't blocked it, I just didn't know who it was. I hesitated, but curiosity won out. I answered. Hi, said Shannon, sounding tired. They want to meet for dinner, just to talk, no pressure. I said I'd check with you first. There was a pause, then she added, I think they miss you now. I didn't respond right away. I let the silence hang, then I asked what mattered most. Did they ever say sorry? Shannon sighed. They didn't say sorry, they just want to move forward. I almost smiled. No apology, no taking responsibility, just skipping the truth and pretending everything was fine. I'm not going, I said. Why? She asked, her voice a little shaky, not angry, but confused, maybe scared, like she finally understood I meant every word. Because moving forward without facing what happened isn't healing, it's pretending, and I'm done pretending. That part of my life is over. Another long pause, then she spoke quietly. Okay, I guess I'll see you sometime. I didn't say anything, we both knew she wouldn't. The next few weeks were quiet, no more secret calls, no more guilt-filled messages, no more let's talk. It felt like they finally realized I wasn't coming back, not to send money, not to carry their burdens, not to act like they hadn't hurt me. I had left their world for good, and it wasn't empty, it was peaceful. In that quiet time, I finally had room to do things I had put off. I organized a class in my studio to help artists with branding. 5 people came. One cried when she got her first client. She sent me a thank you note, which I pinned on my wall. I had dinner with a friend I hadn't called in years, not because I didn't care, but because I never thought I deserved someone who didn't need me. She laughed at my bad jokes. She asked about my designs like the answers mattered. I told her everything, honestly. I started saving money, keeping it for myself. I booked another trip, not to run away, but just to experience something new, to live again. And sometimes, I look at my phone and think to myself, so this is what peace feels like, not distance, not emptiness, freedom. And when I look back, I don't regret a thing, not the time I gave them, it showed me how far I'd go to care, and not the moment I stopped, it showed me how far I'd go to care for myself.